My suicidal thoughts were just an everyday escape. It was just a constant thought. Without those suicidal thoughts, which I attribute to the medications that I'm on. So I'm very afraid to change my medication for that reason, because I'm so afraid to go back to those suicidal thoughts.
Hey there, my name is Sean, and this is Suicide Noted. On this podcast, I talk with suicide attempt survivors so that we can hear their stories. Every year around the world, many millions of people try to take their own lives, and we almost never talk about it. We certainly don't talk about it enough. And when we do talk about it, most of us, we're not very good at it. So one of my goals with this podcast is to have more conversations, and hopefully better conversations with attempt survivors and ideators, in large part to help more people in more places hopefully feel a little less shitty and a little less alone. Now, if you are a suicide attempt survivor and you'd like to talk, please reach out. I would love to talk with you. hello@suicidenoted.com. Shoot me an email. I'll get back to you. I promise. Now, I want to remind you that every week on Spotify, there is a poll. Last week's question was about abuse, and this week's I've not yet published, but check them out. I would love to know what you think. Also, there will be a listeners meeting. I had to delay it a little bit, so that will be in early July. We will have a couple of dates. I'd love to meet you and talk with you. And a few months ago, I started a live stream with prior guests. We talk about all kinds of stuff. You can find it on the YouTube channel. And at some point soon, we will start inviting listeners. Remember the goal, less shitty, less alone. Finally, we are talking about suicide on this podcast. My guests and I do not hold back, so please take that into account before you listen or as you listen. But I do hope you listen, because there is so much to learn. Today, I am talking with Helena. Helena and I first spoke more than 4 years ago. Yes, this is an update episode. Sometimes I do them with one person, sometimes I do them with two, and today is one. Helena lives in the Sunshine State, go Gators, and she is a suicide attempt survivor. Helena, what's going on?
Not much. How are you?
I am doing okay. So we first talked in 2020, and your episode came out October 26th, 2020. And here we are 4.5 years later. So I listened to the blurb, that beginning part of our episode. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but that beginning part. And you said quite clearly, okay talking about it. I'm comfortable talking about it. I'm okay with what happened. And here you are. It makes sense that you would want to talk again because you're okay talking about it. So that part of you hasn't changed.
No, it hasn't. I'm kind of surprised at myself for, I guess, reaching back out. But I think providing an update is not only helpful for the audience, but also for me, and kind of reflecting on the past 5 years.
Let's do this. So if they haven't heard the original episode, how are we going to share with them the overview so that they have a little context for the last 4 to 5 years? Can you do that in a minute?
I think so.
Go for it.
Okay. I started my undergraduate and was suicidal and was Baker acted, which in Florida is an involuntary commitment. It was a horrible experience. And so after that, I did not disclose any of my suicidal thoughts to anyone and tried a bunch of different medications for 3 years, hoarded different medications, and then attempted suicide in 2016 by intentionally overdosing. And then I wasn't found for 3 days. Because I wasn't found for 3 days, I suffered permanent nerve damage to my left arm and my left hand, where it affects my dexterity. I also have a very large scar on my left breast and on my forehead and on my arm from, gonna sound gross, but you know what? Might as well, from vomiting on myself and from that eating through my clothes and skin for 3 days. And then I had a blood clot in my leg and some infections, but I ultimately survived that, spent 2 weeks in the hospital, but then still lied to the psychiatrist to get out of another Baker Act. So I didn't want to go back to an inpatient and instead lied, said I realized I had all the support, moved back in with my mom and had to restart my life. And so that was and then I kind of went through a partial hospitalization program, found meds that really helped me. And then we spoke in 2020 where I was 3 years into my recovery, kind of sorting, still living with my mom. Now I live alone, still kind of finding myself within my own recovery. I hope that kind of sums it up.
Helena, that is how you do a summary. Take notes. That is how you whittle down what was probably, 40, 50 minutes of an edited conversation to a minute of course, life is more than a minute, but we're just trying to sort of like connect the dots here.
Hmm.
Wow, that was helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do recall, because I went to the University of Florida. You went to USF, South Florida, right?
I did. I still go there. I'm now a PhD student.
Oh shit! What's your PhD in, or what are you studying?
Aging sciences. So I'm looking at those that are aging without kin, so without any children, spouses, family
Possibly.
close.
Okay, Helena, here we go. You literally just described essentially me. I just want to be heard. Wait, I am a middle-aged guy, no children, essentially no relationship with anybody in my family save the occasional chat with a sister or brother-in-law.
And how do you think that will affect you when you are looking for help, for care with your
Not how will it? How does it? There's no real answer because obviously I'm aware of the options of reaching out. Like that's not like I didn't know that. There's reasons why I don't. But wow, yeah. And we're not going to really go into this, and this kind of expands necessarily beyond kin and gets into all kinds of other stuff. But I've been saying this on the podcast for years. It's not original thought. The loneliness and or isolation, not the same thing I understand. You literally just cannot live.
It's powerful. That loneliness is powerful. And that's also one of my topics I'm studying is loneliness specifically.
I did this talk a while ago and I had learned something. I don't remember the source, but it was a reputable source. It was a known thing. Somehow they were able to gauge that loneliness or chronic loneliness or whatever word you want to use is akin to like 15 cigarettes a day. And in my presentation, I remember saying, but loneliness doesn't stain your teeth and loneliness doesn't change your breath. You can't see it or smell it, but it's still there. That's not the worst line ever.
That's a good line, I think.
Use it.
I might.
I'll make your memoir title. You use my shit too. It's fine.
Perfect.
We're symbiosis. We're helping each other be a little less lonely. Helena, this is a good transition. Are you lonely?
I mean, I immediately want to say no, but I mean, the answer is yes, because I am often alone, even though social isolation is different from loneliness, because you could be surrounded by a bunch of people and still feel that loneliness. I'm a very independent, like homebody, especially with working full time or work from home. As a PhD student, I'm often home studying instead of going out. So that there is loneliness. And I think about how like if scrolling and it's just that initial like, oh, how are you? My initial, I want to say I'm lonely, but then it's kind of like gives off a vibe like, are you needy? Like, are you looking for someone? But no, I'm just expressing the fact that I wish I was around someone or wish I was around someone that I had an intimate connection with. So yes, I am lonely, but I do have loved ones around.
When we talked in 2020, it had been several years since you attempted.
Hmm.
Was that your only attempt?
That was my only yeah.
Since we talked, do you ideate?
It's very rare. I always kind of want to go to the explanation that life is different without suicidal thoughts. My suicidal thoughts were just an everyday, a very common like escape. It was just a constant thought.
Mm-hmm.
And life was very different without those suicidal thoughts, which I attribute to the medications that I'm on. So I'm very afraid to change my medication for that reason because I'm so afraid to go back to those suicidal thoughts. I was trying different medications beforehand.
Right.
So the one that I found that has helped with the suicidal thoughts has just changed living. Like my coping style isn't to think about how I'm going to kill myself. It'll still very rarely come up, but in the past, it was an everyday thought for sure. So no ideation besides the little like, oh wow, I wish wasn't here, or those like intense crying episodes, which I still get sometimes. But it's like I just feel life is very different without those constant suicidal thoughts.
That's so interesting. So what do you attribute that to?
The new medication and restarting life with dialectical behavioral therapy and the partial hospitalization program.
We didn't get to that. Hang on. We're going to
Sorry.
get to that. We're going to get to that. Tell me what happens in 2021 on, however you want to, that you go from there to here. And mostly, I have to sort of characterize it as mostly seems like for the better. But, of course, life is life. So tell me otherwise. So, yeah, another Helena summary, but we'll go a little bit more in depth with some of this stuff.
Let's see. Because I feel like all of the change occurred in, I want to say, like 2018, 2019. So right as we were speaking, I was finding my footing. So I'm trying to reflect on the past 5 years. I think I've grown a lot with how I look at myself. Oh my gosh, what was the original question that you just asked? I'm so sorry.
The original question was, do you take your coffee with milk or not? I don't know where the fuck you're going with this. Helena. Give me the basics of your life, sort of more of the external stuff.
Okay. Live alone, have a dog. I
Mhm.
love my dog. I have a lot of plants. I went back to school when I started working full time, I think 2021, 2022, and my employer pays for my tuition. And so I didn't think that I had enough background to get into a master's program. So I applied for a graduate certificate and kind of made connections with the faculty that was in the in the master's program that I wanted to get into. And so I then 2 years later applied to the master's program with recommendation letters from the faculty that were already in the program, did my master's, and I thought I was just going to be done. So I graduated a year ago with my master's. And then I had one of my professors suggest that I apply to the PhD program. I was speechless. I was like, there's no way. Like, I don't think I am ever, I don't think I have those skills, that knowledge, that expertise, but I applied, they accepted me. And I think it's been a lot of like imposter syndrome going in, but I think this is just another little bump that I'm kind of working to get over, just like in the past.
Helena, how old are you?
I'm 29.
29. If I said to 25-year-old Helena, by your early 30s, you're probably going to be a doctor.
Crazy. It's crazy. And I had a coworker because I had a coworker who would call me doctor and my last name, Dr. P, always just like, Dr. P, where's this? Or, and it would always just like a little joke. And I have to go back. I went back and thanked her for putting that little bug in my head because without that initial little support, little push, I may have just like declined the opportunity to even apply. And so, no, I didn't think it was possible. I did not think I would be in this position because I wanted to go into a graduate program for clinical psychology, which is
Mm.
very, very difficult. And then when I attempted, like those dreams shattered, I felt because I had to like quit my job in a psychology lab. And I felt like this gap in my resume was going to affect how I got positions after that. It really all worked out, and I'm very grateful for the position that I'm in now. Even
What
if
if it,
I don't have enough money to buy a house and I'm throwing away money to rent, but that's another story.
Another story, maybe another podcast, but it's related. Tell me more about what you're studying, this research.
Not a lot of research out there on suicide in older adults and just vulnerable populations, those that have attempted. And then as
Yeah.
they age, kind of how that affects how they live or how it affects how they react to different life events or life stressors. There's maybe a dissertation topic. Sorry.
You might want to write that down.
Yeah, right?
I guess the word I always go to is hope and how it gets whittled away. And it feeds on itself. Loneliness feeds on itself or can. And then the things you could be doing, you don't do. Why? Because you're lonely, which is going to make you lonelier. Right.
That cycle. And then anxiety on kind
And
of on
then you're
top of
missing
that.
out on
And
your life. And then don't please go on social media, but you do because it's there. And in some ways, it makes you feel a little better. And then all of a sudden, you feel like shit because you're seeing all the FOMO. And that's a
yeah,
word of love, but it's a real idea. And then you're looking out your window. It's a bitch.
it really is. And it's just like a cycle that you get stuck in. And my loneliness really hits at night where I'm just
Mm.
kind of like, it's the end of the day. I kind of stay busy during the day. And I think that helps me not really focus on the loneliness, but it's
Mhm.
definitely there. And so it's really interesting to kind of recognize that feeling
Yeah.
and when it comes up or where and when.
If I asked 1,000 people about their suicide attempt or suicidality, and I asked 1,000 people about their loneliness, more people would talk about suicide than loneliness.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah. There's certain things that we say are stigmatized, and they are very much so, but there's other things that we don't as much quickly like label that. I'm like, yeah, here's one. Talk to a middle-aged guy who's broke. See how quickly he talks about that. It's not happening. Talk to a middle-aged single woman, or maybe not single, who didn't have kids and is so fucking envious. See how quickly she talks about that publicly. It's a tough one. Like there's shit that's real. And I'm saying we don't even talk. It's like less than suicide. Talk to a dude who can't please his wife. See how quickly he talks about it. Not that he should. There's a lot of people like that.
Yeah, a lot of people who don't want to open up or have those walls, and that was me. I was one. I was definitely had walls up and just would never even admit to that I was lonely. I think before the attempt, definitely the suicidal ideation, just the overall negative view of myself, keeping
Yeah.
that from everyone. It was just took a
Mm,
lot of work to break down those walls and to
mm.
really kind of look at myself and be comfortable with myself. I think that's the biggest thing is that I was very uncomfortable with myself in the past.
On a 0 to 10, where are you now?
I'd say maybe 75, 80. I mean,
Wait, hold up. You're getting a PhD. You have to do like quantitative and qualitative stuff. On a 0 to 10, you're telling me 70 or 80?
sorry, no PhD for you.
All right, but so 7 to 8 is pretty damn good,
I think so. Because
right?
in the past, I would say 2, 3. I
Yeah.
didn't even like, sitting and just being alone. Now I love it. Mhm.
Since we talked that day, that magical day,
Mhm.
did you ever listen to the episode
I did.
shortly after it came out or at some point after?
Right after it came out, right when you sent it to me, I definitely listened to it. It was a little weird. It was pretty cool to listen to,
Uh-huh.
honestly. Now I can't go back and listen to it. I don't know why. Like I just feel like it's too
Uh,
a little embarrassed. Like I stutter things like that, which I feel like I won't be able to listen to this. I don't know. This has all been a foundation for my research because it just
mm,
gives more insight to how everyone's different
yeah.
and just keeping that in mind.
Did you share the episode with people?
I did. I actually listened to it with my mom.
Ooh, okay. And did she learn anything about you?
I didn't necessarily ask her that question, but I think so because of the things I shared in the episode, maybe the extent of the suicidal thoughts and how I hid the suicidal ideation from everyone after the Baker Act. And so it was really a little embarrassing because I was like sitting with her as we were listening to it together, which was very raw, vulnerable, I think, because I wouldn't have done that in the past, but we've definitely grown a lot too over the years. And so that
Mm.
listening to the episode together helped us connect more and I think helped her realize more of the challenges I went through in the past.
And did you talk about it afterwards?
We did a little bit. She said that she was proud of me for sharing my story, which was really nice to hear. And then I also shared it with a couple of different like individuals that I crossed paths with. Of course, like I shared it with a best friend, but I think on two different occasions, meeting someone on a dating app, sharing my story, them really connecting with my story of the suicide attempt, and then sharing the episode so they could have a more in-depth look and, view of how I felt in the past.
I guess one of the real reason I asked, well, another reason I asked that question is I'm just hoping, did somebody say how fucking amazing I am?
Hey, my my partner and my ex at the time, my partner at the time, did comment and appreciate loved your production quality of like the intro and the music and
Oh,
so because like I told him about it, he just thought I was going. I don't know. This is a real show, and he put so much work and effort into it.
I try. All right, so you listened to it. People heard it. Do
Just
you
scary
listen?
to share it.
Scary to share it.
Yeah, because you never know how someone's going to react. Though those that I did share it with, I knew they knew about, like I trusted them, but I was still a little scared because you never know.
Ever listen to the podcast these days?
Oh, yes, I do sometimes. Not as often as I'd like because work and school. But I still do listen because it's nice to know there's other people out there that have gone through an attempt.
Yeah, I ask people, especially during these updates, kind of like, why do you keep listening? And that's essentially what people say. You know what also is kind of weird?
What?
It's just so interesting that I talked to Rain, who's in Colorado, also from 2020. And I mean, just before you,
Hmm.
he also has some paralysis on his left side.
No way.
Yeah. And it's his hand is a little bit like affected.
That's how mine is
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So like how weird is it that today the two back-to-back update conversations are both with people who have some challenges, let's say, with their left side, their arm or hand. Wow.
That is really interesting. What a coincidence. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to his original episode.
When we talked in 2020, there was a couple of questions I wasn't asking. This is going to be a question I asked for you today and you back then. It's the pink and purple pill question. I give you a pill. If you choose it, you do whatever you want with it. But if you take it, you will go to sleep. You will not wake up. There will be no pain and you will not, no one will know it's a suicide. If I gave you that pill today, what would you do with it?
It's a hard question because
Yeah.
that pill, it seems like such a good out. Easy. I'm not going to lie. It's tempting. Life's hard. So I don't know. I know that's not an answer to the question.
Of course, not knowing is an answer. Yeah, it's fine. Sounds like you might save it somewhere safe.
Yes, that would be my answers. I would put it somewhere safe.
Even though earlier we were saying how not thinking about suicide and ideating, not having that as a go-to has been good. Interesting.
That is interesting.
Also, what is interesting, I think, memoir title. Helena?
In our conversation, I don't know if you remember this, but because I was living with my mom, I brought a computer chair and portable desk into my mom's closet. And so there were like t-shirts behind me. You're like, where are you in a closet? And I said, like, yes, like I was trying to be 2 doors away from my mom to see, for her not to hear me. And you said 2 doors away.
So wait a
Sounds like,
second. Oh my God, this is so incredible. So I was doing it back in 2020.
yeah. I don't know if you asked the question, but it did come up.
That might have been the birthplace. I don't know. Or maybe I stopped and started again at some point after. 2 doors away. What's the subtitle? Damn, yeah, I know. There's always more work to do here. All right. So would you still use that as your title today, though?
I don't think so because I don't like hiding myself. I feel like I could just, close the door, have one door, and just be fine.
Well, we're still sticking with the door thing. Okay. So what we could do is just have a series of memoir titles. So
Hmm.
in 2020, it was 2 doors away. In
Hmm.
2025, it's something else, and we'll figure
Hmm.
it out. And we're not married to the door, but we could. And there's a door right behind. Crazy. There's doors everywhere, literal and metaphorical.
Yeah, there's doors everywhere. And I think the opportunities are behind doors, and you never know what's gonna be
Um,
behind the door.
what kind of dog do you have?
I have a German Shepherd.
Oh, nice. Name?
His name's Lord Vader. I can't take credit for the name. He's kind of adopted a rescue, but Vader, yes, he's amazing. I love him.
Have your ideas around suicide or suicidality, whether it's personal or just more in general, shifted? I guess it's like kind of a two-parter. It's like, have the myths shifted or just your ideas about it? Right. That would be an example. What comes to mind? I'll shut up now.
No, you're fine. I don't remember what we spoke about the first time about misconceptions and myths. My view on suicide has kind of changed because in the past I would say like, yeah, like physician assisted suicide, all for it, like make it like let people decide for themselves. Now I'm kind of on the fence because I feel different now. I don't know. In the past, I would definitely just like the pill. In the past, I feel like I would immediately have gone into that option. And now it just feels different where I'm not. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with this. And I'm trying to think if there's any myths. Basically, I'm just more comfortable researching it about the topic. I think in the past I was really afraid and avoided the topic.
Yeah, it makes sense. I wonder why I'm just so enamored with this topic. This is such an outlet for me.
To ask questions.
Yeah, yeah. Because you can't go to pickleball and ask people nonsense. Once in a while, you get someone who's like, "Oh wow, it's so interesting that you're so curious." But I was like, "Dude, shut!" Like,
Just play. Like, come on.
you would have been more leaning towards the idea of a physician-assisted suicide, and now less so. And you said something, and then you went in a different direction. Was there more there?
I think the personal experience of changing my outlook on life and my perspective has changed my view on the physician assisted suicide.
In the direction of less for.
Yes.
But if I asked why, is that annoying?
It's not annoying. No, there's never a question that's annoying to me, I don't think. There's just questions that I feel like I don't have the answer to.
Right.
So no, I'm not sure why.
I want you to choose a date in your past where you say some words to you from present day.
I think I would pick 3 years ago, December-ish. I experienced a very difficult heartbreak and felt like I would never get over it, ever. I still look back at the time and there's hurt. So in the past, I think right after that breakup, if I were to talk to myself, saying something like, no, I wouldn't say something like time heals all wounds because I feel like that's just very, but something about just take this time to yourself. You're gonna be okay. Because I did not feel okay at the time. It was a different pain than the suicidal thoughts. And that's interesting to me. I didn't really think about it in the past, comparing heartbreak to suicidal thoughts. I don't know if it's not even on the same level, but it was a very intense pain that reminded me of the pain I felt when I was suicidal.
And that was the person who thought I was amazing?
Actually, no, it was a different person.
Well, we should talk more about the person who thought I was amazing.
We should, shouldn't we?
Yeah. It's like that's got to be the center point of everything. So let's go to the future. No crystal balls because they're not real. Probably not. Some people might say they are. What is your life like in 4.5 years from now? That's the last time we talked was 4.5 years ago. Now it's fast forward 4.5 years. You're 35-ish. Do you have your PhD?
I hope to by that time.
Are you living in Florida?
Probably.
Are you married?
Probably not.
You still have your do you still have Lord Vader?
I hope so. He's 10 now, so I really hope so. And usually I don't like this question because I have to think about me as myself in the future. But
Mhm.
really, I'm like, will I have my dog? Like, will I? It's a different look to the question because I even with the PhD, what do you want to do with your PhD? Like, what are you gonna do? I don't know, and I feel like that is not the answer to have for a PhD. However, I'm going into this journey. I'm only a year into this like 6, maybe 5 year program because I'm part time. I don't really have an answer for that because my employer pays for my tuition. Who goes into a PhD program for funsies? Like I don't know, like me, like because I'm just absorbing so much knowledge in
Mhm.
this journey and in this program. I look back and I'm like, if I succeeded with the suicide attempt, I wouldn't be in this position soaking up all this knowledge and opportunity and
Mhm.
insight to life and aging and things like that. So hopefully I'll have my PhD. Hopefully I'll be less lonely, I think.
If I were getting a PhD and somebody asked me that question, what are you going to do with it? The only thing I would be able to think of is be like, hopefully get it.
Get that literally, yes. Like
I don't know what else you want to hear. But I do think what you're studying is really interesting.
it is really interesting, kinlessness, and I hope it becomes more of a topic in conversation, especially within caregiving and future healthcare and services and things like that.
Yeah.
It's something definitely to keep in mind.
Yeah. I wonder what percentage of the people I've spoken to, and I guess we could say when I spoke to them, but we could expand it out, were without kin. I could guess because it comes up in conversation, but probably not a small percentage.
And I wonder if that's just a coincidence or is it something where if you're suicidal and you have the suicidal attempt, you don't want that extra.
We're getting into cause and consequence.
Yeah, you're right. And it's all
So,
different for everyone's
do
unique.
people who don't have relationships, are they more likely to attempt suicide? I would guess, just yeah. And then when you attempt suicide, are you more likely to put up walls if you maybe could have had a relation? Yeah. Maybe it works in the opposite way. Oh, there's got to be a connection there. And then I'm sure it's been studied, but not much.
Hopefully more in the future.
I mean, I think the studies on suicide, given what's at stake and given how often it happens, is quite low.
Especially with suicide attempt survivors, some people are too scared to admit it or to even admit suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
why I
you never
wonder about the
know.
way that they administer that. And, I know you have the blinds and the double blinds and the anonymity and all this. So you get some information, and if you know what you're doing, you can account for blah, blah, blah. I know. But like,
There's still a lot to
just the very
consider
nature of what
goes
you're
in.
talking about is going to make it hard for people to want to talk or really be open about it. I haven't done extensive research on the research, but I nosed around, started with ChatGPT. I know.
No, I
Um,
don't believe you. Hey, it helps.
you
I
really
learn
do
a
have to
lot.
cross. You really have to double, triple check
Oh,
because a lot of it's
yes.
bullshit. I was trying, the only time I really researched, not the only time, but I was really researching two things like what's suicide like around the world?
Hmm.
And then also I was wondering the way I approach it, is there any data to support the way I do it? And I also went to the opposite direction, got mixed results. I think there's a fair amount with kids. I see a lot, maybe just that research and or work with a lot with kids and teenagers. That's where I think a lot of funding goes to that under the suicide prevention banner, which is interesting because you're doing almost the opposite of that. It's like older people. Yeah, well, how much is out there?
It's definitely not a lot. And
No.
there's not a lot surrounding the rates and prevalence even of suicide in older adults.
Suicide attempt survivors are the best fucking humans. And I'll tell you why. One, that made no sense. And I'll tell you why I really am glad I chose something like suicide, because there's a personal reason, but also like suicide covers everything in the world. It's your life, it's your death, and everything in between. So it's fertile ground to just talk about almost anything, which is fascinating to me.
So many depths and so many different pathways of that conversation, I'm
Right,
sure.
right. And then, but if you want to learn about suicide, you obviously cannot talk to people who died. You can talk to people who are maybe ideating or in arguably like a dangerous path. But why not talk to the people who have tried? We'll probably think differently about this, and this is okay. This is why some of the stuff around all-out war, prevention, it's like, I think you're just missing some stuff here, man.
No, I agree.
I
Yeah.
really do. I think you're so caught up with that you're missing the space between, which is so many people. The way it's done just doesn't really let people talk about it. And I'm not saying I have an answer to that, because if someone's a risk, what do you do? I'm not, it's tough.
It's definitely a hard topic.
If you're going to do a thing where people talk openly about it, and sometimes when they say certain things, they're deemed imminent risk, and you have laws in place where people have to do things and that person's doing something against their will, at a fucking minimum, make the place they go really kind and loving and warm.
Yeah.
At a minimum, do that. And it's the most astounding thing to me that the place you send people, more times than not, I would say, like, we're not talking 10%, we're probably talking 60, 70%, are really shitty places. Sometimes dangerous, sometimes awful, lonely. How is that possible?
And I don't think I would have had my suicide attempt if it wasn't for my negative experience after being involuntarily institutionalized. Even if it was just 2 days, it was a terrible experience that I never wanted to experience again.
That you bring up something really interesting and unpopular, that my stay in a psych unit contributed to my attempt.
Isn't that a sentence to hear, right? Like, can you imagine?
And what would the common average person hearing that think or say, do you think?
Like, no fucking way. What are you talking about? They
No
were supposed
way.
to help you.
Yeah. Do you think there's also like a sort of little, well, you're the crazy one. What do you know? What do you know what's best for you? I don't know if that's true. I just feel like there's a little bit of that. Oh, and the other one that's sort of like, you make the best of things, and it's not the perfect, but there's no perfect hospital. It's like, no,
It's still help. Like,
no. There are certain roles in this world, whether it's your job or not, and certain institutions you have to treat differently. You have to have the stakes are higher, the expectations are higher. It's just unacceptable. And that is one of them. However, I don't think people look at it that way. Why? Especially for suicidal people. Well,
or keeping them safe. That's all.
but there's judgment.
There's a lot of judgment. Yeah. And people's views you could tell a lot about someone from someone's perspectives on things like this.
I have a question that I'm asking women in particular.
Okay.
I don't ask it often. I have thoughts about agency, which overlaps with physician assisted. I want to frame this question or comment with the understanding that I tend to lean pretty left on most social issues, including this one. If women, you said I could ask any question.
Of course.
If women have, I'm really careful, the option or the right to end a life, or what will almost definitely be a life that is living inside of them, which I am for. By the way, it's very important that you know that. I think it changes the question a little bit. How it is different, but I'm trying to find the words with your help and others' help. If that's okay, why is taking your own life not okay? So let me add one other thing and then I'll shut up. Choice is choice. Agency is agency.
It's a hard question. I'm trying to think on how to answer it. I don't think I have a good answer, because it definitely is my view on physician-assisted suicide contradicts with my view on abortion now, I feel like.
I think views on complicated things don't have to always be what seems to be aligned. I don't know is a great answer, for real. Like,
I feel it's different. I'm very pro-choice, so yeah, I don't know. I'm going to reflect more on that question, though. Thank you.
yeah, and I do think there are some differences. I just can't quite find the words myself.
It's hard, yeah. Life's weird.
Memoir title.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Thanks for talking with me.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Sean, for just having this discussion and being so open and to having this conversation.
My pleasure, man. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you. And also, is there anything else we may have left out that you want to include?
No, not that I could think of. I just really am thankful for this conversation and definitely going to think about it for definitely a while.
In 4.5 years, we'll reconnect. You'll be a PhD. I'll call you doctor.
Or because of this administration, I might lose my job because I'm federally funded, and then I won't have a PhD because I won't have a job that pays for my tuition. But hopefully, in 4.5 years, yes, I'll be a doctor and we'll reconnect. But you never know.
Wishing you good things. Thanks again. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye.
As always, thanks so much for listening and all of your support. Special thanks to Helena in Florida. Thanks, Helena. If you are a suicide attempt survivor and you'd like to talk, or you have spoken with me already and would like to talk again, please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com. I would love to talk with you or talk with you again. Check the show notes, the podcast description, or suicidenoted.com to learn all kinds of things about this podcast. Either way, no matter how you are involved, I really appreciate it. And that is all for episode number 271. Stay strong. Do the best you can. I will talk to you soon.